many has been in my classes in the Tabernacle? How many is this your first time? Your first time. Welcome. Welcome. Is it okay if I call you students? Because I am called to teach. And I'm called to instruct and help you to understand the reason for what you see behind me. As I was telling the person from the TV, as you heard me, it's very important that we understand the Old Testament. Do you know there are some people that think the Old Testament is for the Jews, and everything from that page that separates the Old and the New, this page here, everything forward, called the New Testament, is for us Gentiles. I don't believe that. I believe that God gave us the entire book. From Genesis to Revelation, God has given us the book. And so there is no scripture more written, or no subject more written about in Scripture than this subject right here. The construction of the tabernacle, the order of the priesthood, the sacrifices. There are over 50 chapters dealing with this subject. How many believes that all Scripture is given by inspiration? Apparently, God had a reason to give us more information and instruction regarding the tabernacle than any other subject in the Bible. And I'm humbled by the fact that God has called me over 20 years ago to begin to study and research this subject. And I didn't know why God put it in my spirit to begin to build objects as you see on this platform. I didn't know why. I knew God birthed it in my spirit to build these things. I would build during the day and I would study at night. And for 7.5 months I would study and I would build, I would study and I would build. Little did I know what I was studying and the notes I was taking would be some of the very same things that I will be relating to you this week. You have heard me teach some of these lessons, maybe all of these lessons. But experiencing the tabernacle pattern must be lived by us and not just retold by us. I'm not here to just retell something that you've already heard. I'm here to remind us it's not something that we just retell every year, but it should be something that we live throughout the year. And I try to, as much as I am capable of doing, and I am not the best speaker, and I'm not trying to be humble. I know my limitations, but God has allowed me to build some things that has kind of balanced my negatives with these positives, and so where I lack the ability to describe something, these exhibits will speak for me. But I'm not here just to repeat what I've repeated in the last 10 years of coming to convention. I want us to get it in our spirit and to live this every day. Did you know we are closer to the coming of the Lord now than we were last year? Has this year, with all of its natural events like the hurricanes and the meteors and all, has any of that kind of stirred your imagination to think, God, what are you trying to tell me? Are you feeling like God is trying to tell us something? And I believe that it's time now, even more so than Convention of 2012. Convention 2013, we should get a focus that God, whatever you want me to be, I want to line myself up to your plan and live like you want me to live. In order to understand this subject behind me, I've got to lay some groundwork that I think is very important. I told you that some people think all of this is unnecessary. I've been teaching the Tabernacle over 20 years. Not very many, but I have in 20 years come across maybe 2 or 3 people that has the nerve to tell me that this is not important. You will never fully understand the New Testament until you go back and understand the Old Testament. Explain it this way. The Old Testament, everyone say the Old Testament.
The Old Testament.
I'm going to tell you like I've told you every convention. As a teacher, I have you to repeat a word, a statement. And the reason I do that is not because I've run out of something to say, but I say it because I want you involved in the learning process. And when I have you to repeat something, sometimes I may turn around and have you to repeat it again. It's not because I have forgotten that you've already repeated it, but there's a reason why, or as some said, there's a reason for the madness here. Okay? The Old Testament, and I teach it this way, the Old Testament is the New Testament enfolded, while the New Testament is the Old Testament unfolded. Or I can say it this way. The Old Testament is the New Testament concealed, while the New Testament is the Old Testament revealed.
Yes.
And to understand spiritual things, everybody say spiritual things. Everybody say invisible things. God gives us earthly things to teach us. Jesus was the greatest teacher. And as you well know, his form of teaching was, he would teach in parables. He would use object lessons to teach the lesson. And he always taught the earthly lesson first. And then he spoke of the spiritual lesson. For instance, there was a time that he was going to teach them, and he brought a little child and set it on his lap. And he talked about the care a father has for his child, or his children. And he related that to the Heavenly Father's care for his children. The Bible said, Jesus said this, now if I tell you earthly things and you don't believe, how shall you believe if I tell you heavenly things? So the way I'm going to teach you, if you want to know about heaven, I'm going to teach you this way. Jesus said, now the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling. And he began to teach this parable. And he said, you want to know about heaven? Let me start with an earthly object lesson to help you learn. We're all human. And the older I get, the older you get. For most of us that are a little bit older, I learned by repetition. Over and over repetition. But I can learn better by visuals. I've done TV interviews, and the last one I did, they came to the museum and interviewed me. And in that interview, I told them, did you know that when I build these objects, it's like God translates me back to a period where I began to live out feelings that they must have experienced during that period building those particular items. When I build models, whether it's Solomon's Temple, I have a Solomon's Temple in Michigan Galleries. I have just finished a beautiful model of Solomon's throne room. I've got a model of the Tabernacle at Shiloh. And in order to build these models, I had to study rabbinical writing. And in that study, it seems like God translates me back to a period. And I began to experience, and I began to learn and taste things that maybe they experienced during that time. That's just the way I learned. But God created every one of us to learn about what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we taste, and what we smell. And God said, I want you to learn about heaven. So I'm going to give you an object lesson about heaven. And he would teach you something visual that you can relate to. Because heaven is invisible. You don't see that. And the Lord said, I want you to understand heavenly things. So in order to do that, let me start with something earthly. And when you understand and comprehend my earthly lesson, then you have really already comprehended because there are really three dimensions that we deal with. We deal with the earthly, we deal with the heavenly, and also the spiritual. I've had some people, and it's probably the most discussed piece of the articles is the Ark of the Covenant. Ark of the Covenant, there's a lot of talk about the Ark, a lot of ideas. Where is the Ark now? But I get more questions about the Ark of the Covenant. And I've even had some people come up to me in events that I do, and they ask, Dr. Hamilton, is that the real Ark of the Covenant? I probably get this stupid look on my face when they ask me that, like, where did you come from? But I do like it when I'm asked that, because I respond this way, class. I respond and I say, did you know the ark that Moses built was not the real ark? It wasn't. The real ark was in heaven. Do you know when you get to the book of Revelation, John the Revelator writes about, and I saw the ark of his testament. So Moses didn't build the real ark. The ark was in heaven. But the Lord said this, I want you to understand about heavenly things. Here's what I want you to do, Moses. Build me an ark. I want you to make it this size and this deep and this tall. I want you to put a crown around it. In the four corners, put rings in it. And I want you to put staves in those rings. And around the mercy seat or the cover, put a crown around it. And on each end of the mercy seat, Moses, I want you to put me two cherubims. I want them facing each other, but I want their faces toward the mercy seat. I want their wings outstretched, covering the mercy seat. And Moses, see that you make it according to the pattern I showed you. You know why, Moses? This is a pattern of heavenly things. And I want my people to understand heavenly things. So Moses made a visual of heavenly things. You know, Moses didn't make the real menorah. John the Revelator saw the real menorah. John wrote, and I saw 7 golden candlesticks. He writes about the menorah. John saw the real menorah. But the Lord said, Moses, I want people to understand heavenly things. And here's why it was important for people to understand heavenly things. I firmly believe, class, that when you get to heaven, when we get to heaven, this is not going to be the last time you see this. You're going to see it there. You're going to see it there. This is not going to be the last time you're going to see this. I do pray this, that when we get there, that the Lord would honor me to come out and say, come here, Tabernacle students, and I'll talk. Here is the real stuff right here. I told you it was up there, and now you're seeing it for yourself. But until that day comes, God has called me to build earthly visuals of heavenly things. God has called me to set it in order as you read it in Scripture. This subject of the tabernacle, and I mentioned a while ago, there is no subject more written about or more is said about than this subject right here. There's a verse of Scripture that tells us why we are to build this house. Dan, I want you to read from it. And you're going to go to reading number 1. And that's going to be Exodus, I think, the 25th chapter. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to give a scripture in verse when you read for me. And let's start right there. Just read that first verse for a moment for us.
Exodus 25, 8 and 9. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them.
Stop right there, reader, just for a moment. Leave that up. And here's the reason. There's no long rendition, no long discourse of why you're going to build this house. The Lord said, you are going to build this house for this reason, that I may dwell among you. Now, as a builder and a designer, I would not have worded it that way. It seemed odd to me that God would word it have the writer anointed to write it that way. Here's the way I would have wrote it. And let them build me a sanctuary that I may dwell in it. That's what I would have said. God wanted a house to live in. That sounded to me, as a builder, that's why you build a house, right? But the purpose of this house is not for God to dwell in. Here's why. You remember when Solomon and David was given the plans for Solomon's temple. But Solomon, his son, was the one that was commissioned to build this house. And God maybe had smiled when he said, Lord, I want to build your house. The Ark of the Covenant has lived in tents and curtains for hundreds of years. As a matter of fact, the Tabernacle was a place of God's presence and the Ark for nearly 500 years. Up until the time of the temple. 500 years. And David, it was in his heart to build God a house. God may have smiled when David said, God, I want to build your house. Your ark has dwelt in curtains and tents, and I live in a house of cedar. Let me build you a house. And God may have smiled and put it this way. He said, heaven is my throne, and earth is my footstool. David, what house are you going to build for me? David, if you could build a house that would cover the entire face of the earth, it would not contain me. Because I am bigger than this earth. Heaven is my throne. Earth is my footstool. What house will you build for me? Here's where I'm going to go with this. You get in the New Testament, and the New Testament says, know ye not that your body is the... Your body is the what? Everyone say, I'm the house. Let me read it for you just a moment. 1 Corinthians 3 and verse number 9. Let me read it. For we are laborers together with God. Ye are God's husbandry. Ye are God's building. Everybody say, I am the house.
I am the house.
Verse number 16 of 1 Corinthians 3 says, know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwells in you? Where does God dwell? Everybody say, in me. Everybody say, I'm the building. Everybody say, I am the house. You are the building. And that's the reason maybe God smiled when David said, God, I want to build you a permanent house. And God said, David, heaven's my throne and earth is my footstool. What house will you build for me? And what's going to be the place of my rest? Scripture says, except the Lord build a house, they that build it labor in vain. Class, here's what God did. God said, David, you can't build a house big enough for me. But I tell you what I'm going to do. I'll build my own house. Let me explain it to you. Maybe this way. In the New Testament, there is a story where Jesus was teaching, and the scribes and the Pharisees seemed to always be there. Not necessarily to learn, but to find fault and to find a reason to discredit his ministry. And this particular day, they asked him, Lord, and it's always this time of the year that we're dealing with income taxes. And I just sent mine off, at least to the CPA before I came up. I'm glad that's taken care of. I was to pay taxes. You remember this story? Remember this? And as Jesus so often did, he had someone to bring him a coin. And I have a museum replica of that coin. It's called the tribute penny. And that's what this is here, the tribute penny. And on this tribute penny, there is an image of a person there. And I would imagine when Jesus was teaching, and I'm going to put this down and give you a little bit bigger visual, okay? I'll give you this one. Jesus probably held that coin up and he asked them, now, whose image and inscription is on that coin? They said, what? All right, class, if I asked you what was on that coin, you would say Caesar's image, right? Because Jesus asked them, whose image and inscription is on the coin? And I'm repeating, what's on the coin, class? Caesar's image. Okay? Let me try it again. What is on the coin that he held up? Caesar's image. When he finished, now you remember he taught by using earthly visions. If I tell you earthly things and you don't believe, it's no use for me to go any further and tell you heavenly things. So, and he held it up. And I'm teaching, I'm repeating, I know. This is important. And he held it up. He said, whose image is on the coin? And they said, Caesar's what? Image was where? All right, because Caesar's was on, he said, render, how does it go? And stop just a minute. Because Caesar's what was on the coin? Do what with the coin? All right, render unto Caesar what is Caesar. But now he steps into a spiritual dimension, and he said, and unto God the things that are. Here is a dividing line. Because Caesar's was on the coin, give it to Caesar. And then he said, now let me talk to you. But unto God the things that are God. When God created man, he created man in his own image. The image of God is on you. The image of God is on every one of you sitting in this class. God put his image on you. Now, what was on the coin? Caesar's image. Then he said, because Caesar's image is on the coin, give it to Caesar. But now, wherever you find my image, that belongs to me. In other words, I built my own house. I designed it like I wanted it to be. I built something I would dwell in. So give Caesar whatever his image is on. But where my image is, that belongs to me. Everybody say, I am the house. Everybody say, I am the building. God designed his own house. And I see it in you. But it doesn't mean that God will dwell in the house. Because many times the house is not in order. God is saying, you want to understand what kind of house I will dwell in? Build me a sanctuary. And the reason for this sanctuary, now I'm in the room with you, right? I'm here with you. But technically, I'm not among you. I am with you. In order for me to be, put our scripture back up, that Exodus 25, the last one she read. Now, technically, if I come in here, I am among you, right? Everybody say, he's among us. He's among us. See, God said, I don't want to just have a place to dwell with you. I want my sanctuary among you. And he said, if you'll build me a house, I tell you what I will do. And now I dwell in the heavens of heavens. But here's what I'm going to do. If you'll build me a house, I will step down from the glory world. And I will come down to where you are. And I will dwell among you. The tabernacle was in the midst of that camp. That camp, do you have slide number 1? Show us slide number 1 for a moment. This is show us a big picture of the tabernacle. That camp stretched for 12 miles. There were 2.5 to 3 million Israelites in that camp. And God said, if you will build me a house, I'm going to step from the glory world and I will become a tent dweller among tent dwellers. I'm glad I serve a God that loves me enough. He said, I'll put on a tent and I'll come down and dwell where you're dwelling. He said, not only am I going to lead you to I'm just not going to show you where it is. I'm going to go with you. And that was the reason for this house. To teach the people how to build a place where God will dwell. Now, we're going back to the scripture. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them. Now, he gives instructions here. The next verse, reader, says,
according to all that I show thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even so shall ye make it.
Read the scripture. He instructed Moses to instruct the builders, according to all that I showed you, after the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even so shall you make it. Probably one of my smallest, cheapest visions. Use more than any part of this whole collection that I have. Anybody know what this is? It's an envelope that holds a pattern anyway. I'm not sure what's in it, but there is a pattern inside here. Now, class, let me ask you a question again. What is this? A pattern. Everybody say a pattern. As I always do when I'm teaching the tabernacle, no matter where, this is very important that we understand. Well, could we agree as a class, and without getting into technical terms, can we agree that simply put, a pattern is something we use to make something by? You know, without whether it's in this instance a garment, or a piece of furniture, or even a house. You have blueprints for houses. And so can we correctly say you use a pattern to make something by? If I asked you, what is this, you would say, everybody, let me hear you. If I asked you, what is this, you would say,
Water.
If I asked you, what do you do with the pattern, you would answer by saying,
Make something by it.
you make something by it. Not necessarily from it. You make it by it. Okay, let me try it again. What is this, class?
A potter.
What do you do with a pattern?
Make something by it.
Do you wear patterns?
Oh.
What do you do with a pattern? Watch this. And see that you make all things according to the what?
Pattern.
What do you do with the pattern? You don't wear patterns. God said, you want to know what kind of house I'll dwell in? Let me give a pattern. If you can understand this earthly pattern and the order of this house, then you will understand where is God's house. When I ask you that, I want you to know, where is God's house, students? I'm looking at you and I want you to, here's what I'd like for you to do. When I ask you, I want you to do this. At least I know you're looking at me and not texting on your phone. And I don't mean to be unkind, unless you are a doctor or dealing with some emergency capacity, first responders or whatever. I'm a little offended when I see a blue light in somebody's face, unless you have a pad with your scripture and all that. So I try to be careful not to say to people, because I don't know if you've got an iPad or whatever in your scriptures on that. But and not disrespectful to me, but it's very considerate to the Lord to monitor your calls and your texting during your class. Not in respect to me, but to the Lord as such. But when I ask you, where is God's house? I want you to be able to say, I am God's house. Okay? And the Lord said, you want to understand what kind of house I will dwell in? I'm going to give you the pattern of the house. And the Lord told Moses, and when you make it, make sure you make all things according to this pattern. Let me ask you, class, do you think God would have dwelt in this house if it had not been built according to the pattern? And here, let me come to us today. We are living in a religious world that thinks they can build God's house. Where's God's house?
I have God's house.
They can build God's house any way they want to build it, and God will dwell in it. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And Convention 2013, now more than ever, is not a story that I'm just here to retell. It is a lifestyle. This is the way we live. It's the way we pattern our life. How many want the presence of God in your house?
Amen.
And the whole reason for the tabernacle was to have a place that God could put His Word. He said, "You want me to dwell among you, build me a sanctuary." And there's an order of approach to my sanctuary or my throne. And in that room we call the Holy of Holies, it was all about the Word that was placed in there. You see the Torah that's placed beside the Ark of the Covenant? That was commanded. You put the book beside the Ark. You put the law and the Ten Commandments in the Ark. It is even said in rabbinical writings that the set of 10 Commandments that Moses broke when he initially came off the mountain, that broken set was placed in the Ark of the Covenant as well. God said, "I need a place I can put my Word. And I need a place that my Word can issue out from my house." Where is God's house?
I have God's house.
And look at it. God is looking for a place to put His Word. And God said, "You want me to dwell in you? Let me give you the blueprint of this house." The Bible said, "According to all that I showed thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all the instruments, even so shall you make it." Now let's read another scripture, and I've got to hurry. Read for me number 11, and that's going to be Hebrews 10 and 1. And listen to this. This is a very important scripture, I think. Hebrews 11 and 1. Read it,
Hebrews 10, verse
10,
1.
yes.
For the law, having a shadow of good things to come.
Stop right there just a moment. Leave that scripture out. Students, look at this. The law is the 5 books of Moses: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. This is where we find the building of the tabernacle, the order of the priesthood, the offerings and the rituals and the washings is in the law. The law had a shadow of things to come. Everybody say a shadow.
Shadow.
If I come down here and I'm going to take that screen. If I do this, what is I tell you what, go to slide for a while. For the law having a shadow of good things to come, the law had this shadow. Go to slide one for that. And now, what is this on the screen right here?
Shadow.
Is that me?
No.
Now, wait a minute, think about it. Is that me right there?
No.
No, this is me right here. That is what? A shadow. But it's an outline of me, right? The Bible said the law having an outline of something. It was like this. The tabernacle was an outline. Everybody say an outline. Patterns are outlines. Am I right? It's an outline. For the law having an outline, and in this case, having a shadow. Watch this. It's like the light of God was shining on an object. You see what my object is? The law having a shadow or an outline of something to come. It wasn't the very image. You can't grab it. It really had no substance to grab hold to. But the law was an outline of something to come. Now, and some of my best friends are I had a very good dentist friend of mine call me this morning, and we talked for at length this morning about what's going on in his life. And some of my best friends are Jewish people. I've been in Jewish synagogues in their service, and I love them as a group of people. I love the history of Judaism, and I love to study that. It's so beneficial in my understanding this. But there's a problem here. They are trying to grasp hold of this back here. And it's like, have you ever heard anybody say, there is something here, but I can't put my hand on it? And this was only an outline of something to come. But the problem here, their back is to the light. But what happens if I turn around and I start following the light? You know what's going to happen? Everybody say, follow the light. Follow. If I follow the light, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to find out what that outline is all about right there. Because here is the substance of the shadow right here. Amen. If I'm going to understand the invisible, God said, you want to know who I am? You want to know what I look like? You want to know what I'm shaped like? Go back. I use that when I can't reach the screen. He said, you want to know what I look like? When you know me, I'm going to be shaped just like this outline right here. And since he's not there, the Lord said, you want to know where I will dwell? Build me a sanctuary. I'll write more about it than any other subject. And now, I'm going back to something I've had you repeat. Where is God's house?
I am God's house.
Here's what God is wanting to do. God said this is simply a shadow of good things to come. What God wants to do is to take your house. Everybody say my house.
My house.
God wants to take your house and lay it on the outline of the house. And when God judges us, God's not going to judge you and measure you by the person sitting by you. God's going to take your house and lay your house up against the pattern of the house. And God's going to see if your house fits the pattern of the house. You understand what I'm talking about? The tabernacle was an outline of Jesus Christ. And the body is the church, right? The body of Christ is the church. So therefore, since the tabernacle is an outline of Jesus Christ, it's an outline of you. It's an outline of you. And the Lord, and I'm going to try to wrap this up in just a moment. The Lord said, you want to understand invisible things? I've got a little thing I'm going to try to help you in the next few moments. I'm going to show you something invisible. Now, can you see invisible things?
No.
But I can guarantee